Ever since Meta dropped the Andromeda update, ad accounts that used to print money just don't anymore. ROAS is crashing, good ads are dying, and it's not because the algorithm's broken. It's because Meta completely rewrote the rules of the game. How ads are delivered, who sees them, and how success is even measured. And until you understand what really changed, your results won't look any different. I'm Charlie. I help anyone running ads, scale brands, drive leads, and make a lot more money. Today, I'm giving you my entire playbook, chapter by chapter with nothing held back. And I've time-stamped it all down below so you can save this video and come back whenever you need. And in this first chapter, I'm going to show you exactly what changed, why your old strategies stopped working, and how Andromeda rewards the brands that truly drive growth, not just noise. So that being said, let's get started with chapter 1, the real change. The real change with Andromeda is how harshly it punishes you for doing the wrong things. It made doing the wrong thing more expensive. And I know what you're thinking. Okay, Charlie, but what is the wrong thing? And you're asking yourself, what am I supposed to do if I want to make more profit? Let's make this real, because to understand what changed, I think the best way to show it to you is to have you see what happens in real life. Let's paint a picture. Meet Maya. It's Monday morning. She's scrolling through Facebook while waiting in line at her favorite coffee shop. She sees your ad. She watches for a few seconds and keeps scrolling. Doesn't buy. On Tuesday, she's on Instagram. She sees your ad again. Same brand, different creative. She pauses, she reads the caption, she giggles a little bit, drops in a couple of comments, and then keeps scrolling. Later that day, she searches for your brand on Google. She clicks on the search ad, lands on your site, looks around, fills out the pop-up for 15% off. She even adds something to her cart and then gets distracted and leaves. Wednesday, she opens up her inbox. There's a welcome email from your brand, the one she got after signing up on your site. She skims it. Doesn't click, but she remembers the name. Thursday morning, she sees one of your carousel ads. She likes it, maybe even shares it, but still doesn't buy. That afternoon, she gets retargeted again in Instagram stories, twice in the same day. This time, she taps through, lands back on your site, scrolls a little bit, and then closes the tab again. Then comes Friday. Friday morning, she's on Instagram, and there you are again. Same brand, new ad. This one's a bit more direct and clean. Friday afternoon, she's back on Facebook. She scrolls her feed, and there it is again, your ad. That evening, she opens up her email, clicks through to that same message from Wednesday. And a few minutes later, she searches for your brand on Google one more time. She clicks yet another search ad, and finally buys the exact product she left in her cart 3 days ago. Now, here's the crazy part. Every single one of those touch points, Facebook, Instagram, Google, Klaviyo, they all take credit for that same one sale. They all claim they caused it. But we both know that's not how it works. That last ad that Maya saw before she bought, it didn't cause the purchase. It just happened to be the last one she saw. ROAS gives full credit to whoever shows up last. Like saying the cup of water she drank at mile 25 is the reason she finished a marathon. Yeah, I'm not arguing with you, the water helped. But it's not the reason she started. It's not the reason she trained. It's not the reason she crossed the finish line. And that is the illusion of ROAS. Before Andromeda, that illusion didn't just exist, it was rewarded. The system gave credit to whoever shouted the loudest at the finish line, but Andromeda flipped it. Now it rewards whoever inspired the run in the first place. And that changes everything. Yes, it's very simple, but Andromeda isn't optimizing for who gets the last click. It's optimizing for what truly moved Maya from some random woman sitting in a line at a coffee shop waiting on her quad shot half calf to being a buyer of your business. This is where Andromeda changed everything. It stopped rewarding whoever hands out the water right at the finish line, and it started rewarding whoever inspired the runner to start in the first place. Andromeda isn't optimizing for who can steal the last click. It's optimizing for whoever can drive the most incremental lift, growth that wouldn't have happened without your ad. It's not trying to find the fastest sale anymore. It's trying to build the healthiest, most predictable customer journey. When you start chasing incrementality instead of attribution, your entire perspective changes. You stop asking, how do I get cheaper conversions? And you start asking, how do I reach customers who wouldn't have bought otherwise? That is when the machine starts working for you instead of you working against it. So here's the truth. Andromeda didn't make your ads worse. It just made the game more honest. If you're still optimizing for ROAS, you're literally training the system to work against you. You're telling Meta, don't find me new customers. Just show my ads to the people who are already likely to buy. That is why your costs go up. Before Andromeda, you could brute force your way to decent results. You could spam the system with enough ads, dozens or hundreds or even thousands, with enough audiences, with enough effort, and you could outrun the problem. But now, every bad habit you've been getting away with, every overcomplicated structure, every bloated account setup, Andromeda doesn't just ignore it. It amplifies that problem. But when you start playing the new game, when you focus on the ads, offers, and messages that create new customers, you're going to see something wild happen. Your ROAS might drop, but your total profit volume could easily double because you're not chasing efficiency anymore. You're building growth. And that is where Chapter 2 begins. The exact system to double your meta ad profits in 90 days. Chapter 2, the system behind the scale. Now that you understand how Andromeda changed the game, you might be wondering, how do I actually win in this new world? Because when you stop chasing ROAS, you need a better scoreboard. One that measures growth, not credit. Every advertiser who thrives under Andromeda follows the same 6-step system. It's simple, repeatable, and built for profit, not chaos. In this chapter, we're going to cover how to audit your account for clarity, how to plan where your profit actually comes from, and how to train the algorithm to scale that profit automatically. All right, let's dive in with step number 1, auditing the account. Before you change anything, you need to see exactly what's really happening. And to do this, we need to add a new number. GPT, gross profit per transaction. It's your AOV minus CPA. You can make it as a custom metric so it shows up on your dashboard with every sale. If your average order value is $50 and your cost per purchase is $35, your GPT is 15. That's how much profit you make off of every sale before product and overhead. It's a clean marketing layer view of your performance. GPT tells you in absolute dollars and cents how much money each sale adds to your system, not the volume of margin that's being attributed to the touch of the person who is loudest at the finish line. And when you look at GPT, you're going to notice something fast. The ads spending the most aren't always the ones generating the most profit. Some burn your margin and look really efficient, and others fund your entire business. That's why we start with clarity, not guesses. We need to actually understand the absolute dollars and cents on the return of every penny we spend. And this brings us to step 2, value mapping your ads. We're going to visually understand what's going on. So we're going to start by drawing a line across the grid on the screen here. From left to right, that's the worst GPT in the account, to the best. We're also going to draw a line down the middle. That's our CPA, the top being the best CPA in the account and the bottom being the worst. This is a great 2x2 grid where we can map every ad that we have. Now that we have our grid ready, once you've audited your account, you can really begin to visualize what's happening. We can plot each ad on this grid. In the top right, that's our lowest CPA, highest GPT. Those are our scalers. Those are our best ads. On the bottom right, we have our high CPA and high GPT. Those are our optimizers. We can always bring down that CPA. On the top left is our low CPA but low GPT. Those are our fake wins. It's much more difficult to raise the AOV. And in the bottom left, we have the high CPA and low GPT. Those are the liabilities. That is where it costs us more money than average to make less money than average on every single sale. And a quick note here, you're probably going to find that the vast majority of your ads that you're running right now are actually in this lower left-hand corner. That's not good. But that's also incredible because it gives us a clear understanding of what's going on. This instantly separates performance from profit. Now you know which ads are good and which ads you need to maybe fix and which ones you shouldn't be spending on ever again. Visual clarity in like 10 seconds. Once you've mapped it, you're going to see the pattern. A handful of ads drive almost all of your gross profit per transaction. Now we can turn that clarity into a plan, which brings us to step number 3, create a plan. With your GPT map handy, you can decide where your spend should actually go. Keep your scalers and your optimizers alive. They raise both AOV and GPT. They're the ads buying your real growth. Everything else, you either fix it or you phase it out. This plan isn't about deleting everything. It's about funding the work that compounds profit. Focus on clarity. Stop chasing the chaos and the margins. You can't pay your bills with margins. You need real money to do that. And that ultimately brings us to step 4, optimize and measure. When it comes to optimization, most advertisers lose money by changing too much too fast. If an ad spends 1% of your budget, turning it off is nothing. But if it spends 50% of your budget, turning it off could reset your learning entirely. It's the same thing that we see with budgets. Move them by more than 20% and you almost assuredly restart the learning phase. So make the smallest move with the highest confidence. Change one variable at a time. Observe and repeat. That loop of audit, plan, optimize, and measure is how you scale without chaos. When you do this right, Andromeda learns around your best GPT ads. That's when scaling gets easier and profits multiply. You're programming the algorithm to focus more aggressively on the best customers, not just the ones closest to the finish line. And this brings us to step 5, programming the algorithm. Andromeda learns from every transaction your account produces. It studies patterns in the outcomes you create, not individual ads, and it adjusts how it allocates impressions based on those outcomes. So if most of your transactions have a weak GPT, you're teaching Andromeda to expect more weak results. But when you consistently create more transactions with a stronger GPT, you're rewarding the machine for behavior you actually want. And when you do that, future transactions become more profitable. Programming meta is exactly like training a dog to go pee outside. You reward what you want, and you remove the reward for what you don't. Every weak ad that you leave running sends mixed signals. Every strong GPT transaction reinforces the right ones. Over time, Andromeda learns this is what good looks like. When you reinforce high GPT, future transactions get more profitable. Once you're giving the algorithm more of what you want and less of what you don't, it starts rewarding you automatically because now it understands what success looks like. That's what it means to truly program meta. You are in control. And when you get this right, that brings us to step 6, which is printing money on autopilot. Over the next 12 weeks, as you reinforce strong GPT outcomes, Andromeda compounds these signals. Your AOV will rise, your CPA will flatten, your profit per sale will increase, and scaling will become easier than ever. And we'll get to more of exactly how to do that in a little bit. But most importantly here, your account becomes stable, predictable, and calm. You're not chasing performance anymore. You're sustaining momentum. And that's the difference between guessing and growing. Now that you've built the machine, a system that can scale profitably and predictably even without additional spend just by making every transaction more valuable, you're no longer fighting Andromeda, you're collaborating with it. Scaling isn't about launching more ads, it's about giving Meta clearer signals, rewarding the ads that drive a higher GPT and pruning the ones that don't. That is how you train the algorithm to reward clarity, confidence, and consistency so that you, in a stable and predictable fashion, can continue to scale your business. And in the next chapter, we're going to unpack exactly how the fastest growing brands multiplied their results while cutting their workload in half. Chapter 3 is how simplicity scales. To start, we have to understand that what got you here won't get you there. Now that your system is built and Andromeda is learning what good looks like. It's time to understand the single principle that makes scaling actually work. Simple scales and complex fails. Most advertisers think growth means doing more. More ads, more campaigns, more tests, more audiences, more offers, etc., etc., etc. But under Andromeda, every extra variable adds confusion. You don't need to do more, you need to do less and do it better. Because the more you throw at the machine, the less it can understand what actually drives your success. And in this chapter, we're going to unpack how simplicity is your real growth advantage. We'll also understand how more became a trap and why the brands that scale the fastest usually do the least. Think of your ad account like a car. A Bugatti can hit 400 kilometers an hour, but here's the truth. It can only drive that way for 9 minutes before it runs out of gas. You can't scale that. It's fast, but fragile. It's beautiful, but completely unsustainable. But that's what most people obsess over when they build their creative testing. A performance vehicle that looks incredible on the dashboard, but burns out before it gets anywhere meaningful. Now, compare that to a Mazda. It's not really built to impress anyone, but it can drive 250,000 miles before it needs repair. It's predictable, reliable. You know exactly what it's going to do. And it gets you from point A to point B every single day. You don't need anything better. That is what you want your ad account to be. A Mazda. Not the fastest on paper, but the most dependable in the actual results it delivers. Because scaling isn't about speed. Scaling is about sustainability, predictability, and ultimately confidence in getting to where you want to go. You've been told that more ads equals more success, but that idea didn't come from Meta. It came from ad agencies. Most agencies became addicted to one metric, ROAS. And as we already know, ROAS doesn't actually represent real growth. It represents credit. To hit high ROAS numbers, those agencies leaned into strategies that poured almost all of your budget into bottom of funnel ads. The ads that show up right before somebody buys, it tried to create as many of those people handing out cups of water at the 25th mile as possible. Those ads look great in the dashboard because they claimed all of the sales, but they fatigue almost instantly. They're not built on new customer creation. They're built on taking credit for what your entire business already did. And because those bottom of funnel ads burned out so quickly, agencies could sell you the solution. More creative, more ads, more tests, more of your budget going towards their services than actually reaching new customers. And many of those agencies also own their creative departments or have partner companies. So they cripple your growth by creating dependency and then sold you the cure for the disease that they caused. That is where this whole test more, launch more, as many ads as possible mentality came from. Before cost caps and the ROAS obsession, nobody was running hundreds of ads just to find one winner. But when agencies realized they could sell creative volume as a service, more became the business model. And under Andromeda, that model is being exposed. Because now launching endless tests and chasing any possible win isn't just inefficient, it's a liability. Andromeda rewards consistency and punishes noise. So the very strategy agencies sold you for years is now what's holding you back from the success that you deserve. You don't need 100 ads. You need a handful of reliable ones that can run for months. You don't need a Bugatti. You just need a Mazda. Every extra decision you force the algorithm to make adds cognitive load, both for you and for Meta. When you create dozens of campaigns, hundreds of ads, and conflicting objectives, you're not being clever. You're confusing the system. Meta doesn't know which path represents success, so it guesses. And every time it guesses, you pay for the uncertainty. You don't want Meta to guess. You want it to recognize exactly what winning looks like and do that over and over in a way that has extreme confidence in doing. And that is what simplicity does. It removes confusion, it creates clarity, and it makes the system more efficient at finding more of what you want. Customers who would not have bought without your ads. More of those women who look like Maya on a Monday rather than somebody that already has something in their cart ready to buy, just competing over what ad will fatigue immediately and take credit for the sale of the entire customer journey. You want growth, not credit. You want to be able to scale, not to spend more and more on ads that make growing your business more difficult. Andromeda's entire job is to recognize these patterns. A simple account sends a clear signal. This is who we sell to. This is what they buy. This is what good looks like. A complex ad account sends noise. This might be good, or this, or that. You figure it out. The clearer your signal, the faster Andromeda learns, and the cheaper every impression becomes. Yes, Andromeda is a lot smarter, but that doesn't mean you should make it even more difficult for the machine to understand the success. The noisier your signal, the slower it learns, and the more expensive everything gets. And that's why simple accounts scale, not because they're minimal, but because they're understandable. Because the machine can now appreciate a customer journey of what touch points happen in which order on what platforms over what certain types of days and experiences that get somebody to go from complete stranger to customer in a predictable way that is scalable and repeatable. That is what you want. So every time you build or change something in your account, I want you to ask yourself 3 simple questions. Who is this for? What do we want them to do? And how will we measure success? If you can't answer those 3 clearly, you're adding complexity that doesn't serve the system. And that is how you design a business that scales by intention rather than by accident. Simplicity turns decision-making into a formula. Complexity turns it into a guessing game. If you've ever felt like running Facebook ads is like just going into Vegas and pulling the slot machine, stop running more ads and start building a system where you know what the outcome is going to be. You should be counting cards. That's what it's all about, okay? This isn't Keno. Simplicity isn't about doing less, by the way. It's about removing everything that doesn't compound. The most powerful scaling systems don't burn bright for 9 minutes. They quietly grow for years. The algorithm rewards predictability, and it punishes volatility. Stop trying to impress the machine. Start helping it understand you, because you don't need a Bugatti. You need a Mazda. And in the next chapter, we're going to break down the 4 invisible forces inside of every ad, the levers that determine whether your message connects, converts, or quietly disappears. Chapter 4, the 4 sides of every ad. Your ad isn't the problem. When an ad stops performing, most people panic. They blame the algorithm. They start testing new hooks, new angles, new creatives to find new pockets of new audiences to try to continue to scale the business. But here's the truth. Your ad probably didn't stop working. It just changed on one of its sides. Every ad has a shape, like a box. 4 sides that define how it behaves, how Meta uses it, and how your results show up. If you can learn how to read those 4 sides, you'll finally understand what's actually happening inside your account. This is what we call 4PI. It's the 4 points of insight that tell you exactly what the system is doing with your ads, why it's doing it, and what you should do next. Side number 1 is spend. Most people think they control spend, but they don't. Meta does. Spend is the clearest window into how much trust the machine has in your ad. If it's increasing, that means the platform is seeing positive user signals. Scroll stops, watch time, site activity, conversions, behavior that makes Meta look good to its users. When spend slows down, it's not Meta punishing you, it's Meta protecting itself. The ad isn't creating the same level of value anymore. Maybe people are skipping it, or hiding it, or just getting bored, or perhaps it's just not working in the customer journey that Meta's mapped out in the same way that it used to. Spend is Meta's way of allocating trust. You don't control spend. You influence it by improving the experience. So when spend drops, your job isn't to panic. It's to ask why the platform lost confidence in this ad. Maybe the creative is fatiguing, but more likely it's the message isn't aligned with the audience's intent anymore, especially if you're scaling and you're reaching new people that aren't as warm as the other ones that you used to. Or maybe a new signal's outperforming it. Perhaps another ad is now doing the job that that ad used to do for you, but better. And when you understand spend as a reflection of trust, not control, you stop fighting the algorithm and start collaborating with it. Remember that spend is Meta's trust score. You earn it. You don't force it. Side number 2 is frequency. When you look at frequency, it really only matters when you look at it by day. It's a map of how Andromeda is distributing your message. Let's give an example here. Let's say your daily frequency is a 1.05. This means 5% of the people saw your ad twice today. 95 only saw it once. That's a prospecting signal. Meta is using your ad to find new customers. Conversely, let's say your daily frequency is a 1.95. That means 95% of the people who saw your ad today saw it twice. So Meta is showing it mostly to people who've already engaged. That is a retargeting signal. And here's what most people miss. It has nothing to do with the audience object you selected. You can have a worldwide audience where the ad acts like a retargeting ad. And a retargeting audience, see, everybody who's been to your website in the last 7 days, but the ads are all prospecting within it. Because the audience doesn't define delivery. The creative does. Creative does the targeting. You've heard it for years. This is how you can measure it. Meta decides who the ad is for based on performance signals, not labels. So when you see the frequency rise, don't assume that it's fatiguing. It just means that ad graduated from top of the funnel to bottom. It's now doing a different job. That's why frequency is so powerful. It tells you how the machine is using your ad, not just how often somebody saw it. And often we see ads, for the record, start at the bottom of the funnel and then work their way up. And then everybody says, this ad's fatiguing. And actually, that's not happening at all. It's just doing a different job. It has different intent. This is how you can read the machine, and you should read it on a daily breakdown. The third side is CPM, cost per milli, or cost per 1,000 impressions. This is the price of attention. But more than that, it's a measure of how enjoyable your ad is to the average person who sees it. Meta wants people to have a good time on the platform. If your ad gets positive responses, watch times, saves, shares, clicks, the system rewards you with lower CPMs because your ad improved the user experience. It's like an organic post getting 20 views or 20 million. If people ignore, skip, or hide your ad, you're making the platform worse, so you pay a tax. Instead of just having less views on your organic content, you pay a higher CPM. That's all that CPM really is. It's a tax on poor experience. A low CPM means Meta enjoys showing your ad. A high CPM means Meta is reluctantly delivering it, or it's going to a higher quality audience that's much smaller. And it's not just about creative quality. Right? You've seen so many folks talk about make ugly ads. Clarity, message fit, and offer positioning, how that ad fits into the larger customer journey of all of the touch points, all of that plays a part. A confusing ad is harder to place. So Meta doesn't know who it's for, so it shows it to less relevant people. Those impressions cost more because they're inefficient. You can't bid your way out of high CPMs. You fix them by making better ads. More importantly, ads that users enjoy enough for Meta to reward you with cheaper attention. Premium inventory is lower price. CPM is a happiness score. The platform pays you for being liked. The more people like it, the less expensive it is to show it to more people. If you're a liability, they're going to tax you out of being a liability. And that brings us to side 4, CPR, or cost per result. This is the metric that most advertisers obsess over. But under Andromeda, CPR doesn't tell you who drove the sale. It just tells you who took credit for it. You might see a low CPR and assume the ad is a hero, but most of the time, it's just a bottom of funnel ad getting the last touch. It didn't create demand, it just handed out the water at the 25th mile, but it might be the reason that something got across the finish line, and that's okay. Meanwhile, your expensive ads, the ones with a higher CPR, are probably the ones introducing your brand to new people, building trust and priming the sale that happens days later. That's the one that inspired Maya to run the marathon to begin with. Those ads look inefficient in platform, but they're the reason your bottom of funnel ads even work. That's why CPR should never be read in isolation. It's a job performance metric, not a success metric. You judge CPR by the ad's role in the system. Is it a creator of demand or a capturer of credit? And when you know the difference, you stop killing ads that build your future just to protect the ones that take the credit. Remember, CPR tells you who got the credit, not who did the work. When you read the 4 sides together, you stop reacting to performance drops and start diagnosing cause and effect. Spend shows you trust. Frequency shows you who. CPM shows you how the world feels about it, and CPR shows you who got the credit. That's the 4PI, the 4 points of insight, your 4 performance indicators. Together, they tell you not just what happened, but what to do next. Your goal isn't to make every ad perfect. It's to keep the system balanced so that your AOV minus CPA, your GPT, keeps growing. Now, here's a quick little cheat sheet for you. Prospecting ads generally earn more spend and have a lower frequency and a lower CPM with a worse CPR. They're doing a better job at getting people inspired to run the marathon, and they're not the last touch point before somebody crosses the finish line. On the other hand, retargeting ads generally don't earn as much spend because they only retarget the people who are already in the funnel. They're not reaching new people. And they generally do so at a higher frequency, right? They're retargeting ads, so the frequency is inherently bigger. They are retargeting more. These ads also generally have a higher CPM because, to be fair, the retargeting ads aren't usually as good of a user experience as the prospecting ones. If they were, Meta would be showing it to more strangers rather than to the people ready to buy. And these ads inherently should have a better CPR. Now you understand completely where your ads fit. Is it an upper funnel ad? Is it a lower funnel ad? Is it somewhere in the middle? And what ads sit in that space but don't do their job well? That is how you can analyze everything that's going on. And if you take this with the grid that we talked about earlier, you're really going to be able to understand which ads are helpful and which ones aren't. And sometimes some of those ads that we were ready to get rid of get a little bit more opportunity because, look, they're just crushing at the top of the funnel. What these 2 systems give you is the roadmap to make the highest confidence decisions. Are you trying to grow your funnel or grow your efficiency? Are you trying to maintain the efficiency you have as you scale? Or are you trying to ultimately scale your budget and give up some of that efficiency because you're too good at what you're doing? All of these are valid things, and now you have a roadmap of how to get from point A to point B with a Mazda, meaning that you can rely on it to do it 250,000 miles before you ever need to fix it, instead of relying just on Bugattis that burn out after 9 minutes. That's what this is all about. Consistency, clarity, confidence, and scale. You ultimately need to balance prospecting, nurture retargeting, and protect the signal. When you learn how to read your ad through the 4PI, you stop seeing them as good or bad. You start seeing them as signals living in an ecosystem. Every side tells a story about who saw it, why it worked, and what the next move should be. And this is how you move from reaction to control, from guessing to diagnosing, from chaos to confidence. And in the next chapter, we're going to take this even further with actionable step-by-step guide to go from creative testing to algorithm programming. This is chapter 5, running ads under Andromeda. When most people run ads, they think they're testing new creatives, new audiences, new budgets, new offers, new creative, whatever it happens to be. But under Andromeda, you're not testing, you're training. Every move you make, every budget swap, every creative change, every ad you turn on or off is a signal to the machine. You're not teaching Meta what you want. You're teaching it what to expect. You're teaching it what to do more of. So your real job isn't to find winners. It's to build consistency, to feed the machine more of what you want and less of what you don't. This chapter is all about how to run ads the right way under Andromeda, calmly, methodically, and profitably. And we're going to start with the rhythm rule. Andromeda doesn't think in days, it thinks in patterns. What it learns isn't tied to time, it's tied to behavior. It doesn't care how rich Italians decided to track the sun 1,000 years ago. So the rhythm of running ads isn't about waiting for a cycle to complete. It's about consistency, sending steady, predictable feedback every single day. Every time you make a dramatic move, doubling spend, toggling off a ton of ads, launching 1,000 new ads, or switching creative sets. You interrupt the pattern. You interrupt the ability to get somebody from point A to point B that you've invested so much into. You confuse the machine. But when your account moves with small, consistent steps, when budgets rise progressively but slowly, when creative evolution is gradual, and when the performance signals are steady, Meta learns what stability looks like. And I want you to not read into this and say that you can't scale quickly. It's just a matter of progression. And when it recognizes stability, it rewards you with efficiency. Because Andromeda doesn't need you to do more. It needs you to do the same thing slightly better, slightly bigger every day. Remember that consistency trains the machine. Chaos confuses it. And that's how we begin to scale through compounding. Most advertisers scale emotionally. They see good results and double their budget overnight. Then performance crashes, and they think the ad died. It didn't die. They just shocked the system. Scaling under Andromeda is not about speed. It's about compounding. You're building a relationship with the algorithm. And relationships grow with trust, not with spikes. The safest, most effective way to scale is through small, steady increases that build momentum. Maybe that's 2% a day. Maybe that's 5% every 3 days. Either one will double your budget every single month without destabilizing the learning. And if you can do that 3 out of 4 times, you'll take a $500 a day budget to more than $130,000 a day in less than a year. So the real question is, what are you doing that's more important than getting your $500 a day to $130,000 a day? You don't need more ads. You need more patience. Scale isn't a sprint. It's a compounding habit. So with that in mind, let's talk about how to optimize without resetting. Every change you make in your account is a message to the machine. When you turn ads on or off, when you cut budgets dramatically, when you change creatives mid-flight, you're not optimizing, you're resetting. The best advertisers don't optimize reactively. They observe, they interpret, and then they make deliberate, minimal moves. Look at your 4 PI signals before you touch anything. Did spend drop because your trust fell? Did frequency rise because the ad is reaching a more refined audience? Did CPM shift because the attention quality changed? Did the CPR rise because the ad moved up the funnel? Did an ad that only worked at the bottom of the funnel suddenly figure out how to reach complete strangers and convert them, and then it just used that closer to go knock on more doors? Each one of these tells you a different story. Your goal isn't to control everything. It's to understand what changed and to respond proportionally. Optimization under Andromeda means making fewer moves with higher intent. Don't chase control. Earn confidence. When an ad gets worse, most people assume it's dying. But under Andromeda, getting worse doesn't mean fatigue. It often means graduation. When an ad starts reaching broader audiences, it's moving up the funnel, not down. It's no longer chasing the easy sales. It's no longer the person handing out the water at the 25th mile. It might be the person inspiring you to start the marathon in the first place. It's now introducing your brand to cold audiences, the people who will become future customers. That means the algorithm is using your data to nurture quality, not just chase credit. In attribution, these ads look worse. They get less credit, fewer purchases, and a higher CPR, but they're creating demand, not claiming it. And when you turn them off, you don't just lose the ad, you destabilize the entire system. Remember that Meta lives at the top of your funnel. This ad moved from the bottom of Meta's funnel to the top because it did something well, and all of the decisions were built on that. So when something works, the worst thing you could do is change it. Remember that graduation isn't decline. It's growth you just can't see yet. Remember that graduation isn't decline, it's just an evolution of the customer journey. That's really important, especially when we begin to talk about protecting your signals. Every transaction in your account is a lesson for the algorithm. You are not just selling products, services, or offers. You're not just driving leads. You're training Meta on what type of customers to find for you next. So protecting your signal means filtering out low quality data. If you constantly run flash sales, fake urgencies or heavy discounts, or do massive creative testing to find any ad with a high ROAS, you're teaching the system that your ideal customer is somebody who only buys under pressure, or is a discount buyer, or the best impression is just somebody who would have bought anyway. And that becomes the kind of people that it shows your ads to. But if you run consistent offers, clean experiences, and brand aligning messaging, you teach the machine that your best customers are quality buyers, and it keeps finding more of them. And it's way more advanced than just the first sale, and we'll get to that in a little bit. Andromeda doesn't know what's good. It just learns what you reinforce. If you feed it chaos, it'll give you volatility. If you feed it clarity, it'll give you profit. What you reward, it repeats. And remember this, momentum is the new mastery. Running ads under Andromeda isn't about hacks, resets, or guessing games. It's about rhythm, patience, and reinforcement. When you scale slowly, observe deeply, and protect your signal, you create an account that compounds, not one that spikes, one that grows predictably. You're no longer reacting to Meta, you're partnering with it. And that is the new mastery. It's momentum, not manipulation. In the next chapter, we'll talk about how to extend that momentum even further by keeping your best creatives alive longer and making performance that lasts for months or years, not days. This brings us to chapter 6, creative longevity, how to make winners last. Most advertisers are stuck in a loop, launching new ads every week, trying to find the next winner. But the truth is, you don't need more ads. You need ads that last longer. It's not about new for new's sake. It's not about more for more's sake. Andromeda doesn't reward volume, it rewards stability. When your ads run consistently, the machine learns who loves your content, who buys and who doesn't. And every day it gets better at finding the right people. Because inside Andromeda, everything is connected. It's like links on a chain. Each one overlaps with the next. Your creative feeds your data shapes your audience defines your offer, and your system reinforces all of that. Change any of the links and you affect every other one. If you keep them stable, the entire structure compounds. So every time you reset, you're not just starting over, you're actually breaking that chain of momentum. In this chapter, we're going to talk about how to keep your winning ads alive longer, how to protect the system that's already working, and how to compound performance across your entire business. And let's start with what ad fatigue really is. Most people think an ad is fatigued when performance dips, but under Andromeda, that's rarely true. A dip doesn't mean the ad is tired. It usually means it's graduating. When an ad starts reaching new, colder audiences, it's moving up the funnel. It's no longer chasing those easy conversions. It's introducing your brand to higher quality people who've never heard of you before, right? It's trying to create customer journeys. And because those audiences take longer to buy, your CPR might rise and attribution might give that ad less credit, right? That's the ad that Maya saw on Monday rather than the one she saw on Friday. But it doesn't mean it stopped working. It means it's building the next layer of your business. And when you turn it off, you're not just removing an ad, you're breaking the link in the chain, the creative, the data, the audience, because Meta sits at the top of your funnel. When something works, the worst thing you could do is change it. Remember that fatigue isn't failure, it's feedback. In the old version of Meta, it was absolutely possible to launch enough ads fast enough to maintain your return on ad spend according to attribution and reach enough new people to keep the sales flowing. It looked like success. Your dashboards said you were winning, but what you were really doing was training the machine to get worse. Every time you launched another batch of ads, another dozen or hundreds or sometimes 1,000, you optimized Meta to become less incremental. You taught it to take credit for sales that would have happened anyway. So while your ROAS looked fine, your CPMs kept climbing. Your costs for acquiring new customers kept rising, and your signal kept getting weaker because every reset, every new ad made the machine dumber. You were teaching Meta that taking credit for sales that would probably have already happened was the definition of a job well done, and that's why the old playbook collapsed. And when we think of this as a chain with different links, and you picture each one snapping out of place, all of the other rings start to drift. Andromeda fixed this by rewarding systems that stay linked, creative that holds, data that compounds, and signals that get smarter. Remember that you have to stop teaching Meta to chase credit and start teaching it to create value. So let's talk about how to build complementary ads instead of replacements. When advertisers say they're rotating ads, what that usually means is they're replacing them. They're replacing winners with new winners, and that's the problem. The goal isn't to swap winners for something new, it's to add complementary ads that fill specific roles in your customer journey. At the top of the funnel, your ad should speak to slightly different people for slightly different reasons. As people move deeper in the funnel, your next ads should overcome objections and call back to the reason that somebody cared in the first place. And a lot of those retargeting ads speak to multiple prospecting ads. Each one of these ads connects to the next, like Olympic rings. Different, but dependent. Each one can reinforce what came before, and when you replace everything, you erase your benchmarks. You start from zero, and everything connected to those ads, the landing pages, the offer, the retargeting, all becomes weaker because you changed who's entering the system. If you built a landing page around traffic from a few great ads, and then you swap those ads for new ones, you didn't just reset Meta, you reset your entire business. The more you change the ads and the higher in the funnel those changes occur, the harder you make every other part of your business. Remember that you should be complementing your ads, not cannibalizing your system. The compounding nature of Andromeda really is the whole point. Every single day your ads run, the system gets better at knowing who wants to see your content and who doesn't. This means that over time, you're not just getting more traffic, you're getting a higher volume of higher quality person, more consistently moving through your entire funnel and into the front door of your business with their credit card already out. And it might not be the first time that they've been there. That's what compounding performance really looks like. It's not about more ads. It's not about new ads. It's about better data. Every day your ads run, you're adding strength to every link in the chain of that system, the creative, the data, the audience, the offer, and the system. Each one amplifies the other. And the longer you keep it stable, the stronger those overlaps get. Put this into larger practice. If you can keep your ads consistent long enough so that you can test and improve the conversion rate on your landing page by, say, 10%, you just made every ad 10% better overnight without touching the ad account. Because every piece of traffic from any source got 10% better, all of the ads get 10% better. If you're constantly testing new ads, I want you to understand what that really means. You're spending your dollars to make the rest of your business harder to scale. And if you want to scale your business, that doesn't make any sense. Remember that compounding data also compounds profit. Creative longevity isn't about just trying to keep an ad alive. It's about keeping an entire system connected long enough to compound. When you stop chasing new winners and start investing in stability, your system gets smarter, your customers get better, and your growth becomes more predictable. You don't need to work harder. You just need to stop investing and undoing the progress you've already spent a lot of money to build. The most scalable thing you can do is let Andromeda do what it's built to do. Learn from consistency. Because the longer that chain stays linked, the stronger your signal gets, and the more freedom you earn to focus on the things that make a much bigger impact, the things that are lower in the funnel and after the click, and even further along in the customer journey after the first purchase. And in this next chapter, we're going to expand on this even further, how your ads, your offers, and your funnel align to create a single compounding ecosystem that scales effortlessly. This is chapter 7, the second scale. There's a line from Dan Kennedy that defines the entire game. Whoever can spend the most to acquire the customer wins. And that's not about ego, it's about leverage. Because the businesses that win aren't the ones with the cheapest clicks. They're not the ones with the most ads. They're the ones that can afford to buy better customers and turn them into relationships that last. When your business earns more from every person over time, you can afford to spend more to bring them in. And that is what the second scale is all about. Not getting cheaper customers, but building a business that deserves better ones and teaching the machine who those people are so it'll give you a lot more of them for a lower price. The algorithm is watching more than just your ads. Meta isn't just watching who clicks your ad, it's watching how people engage with your business. It knows who clicked, who bought, who came back. It knows who watched your content and continued to fire pixels on your site after they purchased. And it knows who responded positively to all of those interactions. Every one of those behaviors teaches the algorithm what kind of customer you attract and how valuable they are. When Meta sees that the people you reach enjoy your content, engage with your brand, and buy again, it starts sending you more people like them. That's the real optimization. It's in their best interest. It's not about gaming the system, it's about training it by building a business that people actually enjoy interacting with. Remember, when your business performs, Meta performs with you. Stability teaches the machine who to trust. The more stable your system becomes, the more Meta learns to trust you. When your ads stop changing every week, when your offer and your funnel stay consistent, when your customer experience is predictable and positive, your signal gets cleaner. And as that signal gets cleaner, Meta starts rewarding you. Not because it likes you, but because it knows how to serve your content in a way that makes its users happy. That's their entire business goal, the retention of attention for profit. You stop being an aggressive liability, creating experiences people don't want because the machine doesn't know how to serve it to people who do want it. And instead, you become a reliable business partner. And when you become a better business partner, Meta rewards you with higher quality traffic for a lower price. That's when your CPMs drop. That's when your customer acquisition costs fall. That is when scaling stops feeling like pushing a boulder uphill. Remember that stability earns trust, and trust earns cheaper traffic. Let's paint another picture. Let's use the example of a steakhouse. I might be able to sell you a salad at a phenomenal markup. Maybe it cost me $2 to assemble some lettuce and cheese and a few croutons, and I can sell it to you for $34.99. That's a super profitable transaction, right? That is a sizzling hot profit today. But unless it's the world's greatest salad, odds are you're not coming back for another one. But if I get you to buy the best steak you've ever had in your life, even if I break even on the marketing, if you love it, odds are you're going to come back and get it at least once, if not 3 or 4 more times, and you'll probably bring some friends. The point here is simple. We need to sell the steak, not the sizzle. The profit margin on the first sale is no indication of the profitability of that customer. That's the difference between the salesman's focus, the performance marketer, trying to make a profit today, and the business owner's focus, the growth marketer, building a customer journey with cash flow. Because when you come back, I don't have to pay the same marketing cost to get you to do it. I'll make a lot more money on that second and third and fourth sale. Odds are you might even take some upsells that you didn't before. And I can either choose to live and die by my ability to get anyone to buy a salad once, or I can focus on getting the people willing to buy the steak again and again. When people buy from you again and again, you're not just making more money. You're teaching Meta who your real and best customers are. You're showing it who loves your content, who loves your product, and who's most valuable to your business. Meta sees that. It recognizes those repeat purchases, those returning visitors firing pixels over and over again. Those people who engage because they genuinely like what you do. And that's how it learns who to send you next. People who don't just buy once, but who buy for life. Meta's entire business model is built on giving the end user the highest quality experience, and that's not just with content, it's what they experience off the platform as well. The simple point here is you need to remember to sell the steak. Build the relationship. Teach the machine who loves it. And that's how we can begin to hack both sides of the equation. When you build a business like this, you start winning on both sides of the equation. Your allowable CAC rises because every customer is more valuable. You're making money from the second, the third, and even the fourth purchase. And your actual CAC will fall because Meta is sending you higher quality people for less money. You're not just scaling spend, you're reaching the people who are most valuable to you. Because your business is operating better, because you're less dependent on the profit from the first transaction, and because you built your model on the back of cash flow, you can now invest more and more, reaching people who are further and further away from that sale. Maybe it's not Maya on Monday, maybe it's 10 more like her a week earlier. And that's what really happens when you scale your budget properly. You're not just chasing the low-hanging fruit anymore. You're expanding your reach to the audiences that will define your next level of growth. And if you want to scale your business, you eventually have to move beyond the sales you would have gotten anyway. This is the way to make that possible and profitable. Remember, real scale is when you can afford to go beyond the easy wins. This is what it means to become Meta's best business partner. You're not trying to trick the algorithm anymore. You're training it. You're showing it what a great experience looks like and who your best customers are, and letting it learn how to show your content to the people that want to see it, and how your business delivers definable and predictable and repeatable value again and again. And the more that you do that, the more that Meta rewards you with cheaper traffic that's of higher quality, smarter targeting, and the customers who keep coming back. That is the second scale. It's not about pushing harder. It's about building smarter. It's about creating a system where every transaction teaches the machine to bring you more of the people who love what you do. Because when that happens, your growth stops becoming luck and it starts being designed. Remember that you don't scale ads, you scale relationships, and relationships scale everything else. A good business model is what scales an ad account. It is not the other way around. And this brings us to chapter 8, the next level of confidence. So by now you're starting to understand what most people miss. And you understand that scaling isn't about running more ads. It's about running a better business. And you've learned how to measure value and how to build stability and how to compound results and how to teach the machine what success really looks like. And now you have a choice. You can take what you've learned here and keep improving it piece by piece, or you can go all in and build the kind of business that compounds forever. That's what we do inside Disruptor Academy. We take this entire framework, the metrics, the strategies, the systems, and we build them inside of your business. So you don't just run ads with confidence, you scale with certainty. Because the goal isn't to just understand Andromeda, it's to own it. So if you're ready to stop reacting and start engineering growth, if you're ready to turn everything that you've learned here into a machine that builds wealth, predictability, and freedom, then join us. You don't need more ideas, you need a proven system that works. And now you know exactly where to build them. And I want to tell you, welcome to Disruptor Academy, where confidence becomes scale. Now before we go, we also have to talk about what changed, what didn't, and why you're ready for all of this. If you come this far, you already have the map. We defined GPT, that's average order value minus the cost per acquisition, as your North Star. We chose simplicity over chaos. We learned to read the 4 sides of every ad: spend, frequency, CPM, and CPR. We scaled with calm compounding moves. We built creative longevity in complementary ads. We closed the loop so that every purchase becomes a better signal. And we stepped into second scale where repeat buyers set you free. This isn't a new chapter. It's the moment that you realize Andromeda didn't rewrite our playbook. It just made our truths louder. Andromeda isn't a new algorithm. It's the same engine with the volume turned up. Think of it as Meta putting on glasses. Now it can see clarity and chaos instantly. If your account was clean, consistent, and stable, then your performance got better in 2025. If it was noisy, segmented, and reactive, your performance got a lot worse. Andromeda is a volume knob, not a rulebook. It amplifies what you built and exposes what you've ignored. Now, we've said it before, but I want to be very clear. Diversity is about concepts, not count. You don't need dozens of ads. You need a few that show you the same truth. Different ideas, different angles, different reasons for the right person to care. When you have dozens of ads competing for the budget, that's just making your system confused, especially if it's across multiple ad sets in an ABO or multiple campaigns. But a handful of well-crafted ideas inside of a CBO make it smart. Chapter 5 taught us to scale load before variables. Every new ad is a new data set. 50 ads with 50 impressions isn't progress, it's noise. We can follow the weakest link principle. We don't just add links to the chain, we strengthen the weakest ones and then add load. We protect our winners. We add new creative only when it fixes something we can see. And that's how you scale without starting over. Remember that Andromeda isn't searching for a best ad. It's mapping the best, repeatable, highest confidence customer journey. Each touch point plays a role. Your ads don't compete, they cooperate. And that's why we simplified the structure. One campaign per business objective, broad targeting, a handful of ads, where all of the data learns together instead of fighting for credit. We've also really established that it's all about signals. When you run clean, broad, and consistent, you're telling Meta, I trust the machine to find my best people because I've built a business worth finding. That's not giving up control, that's using it wisely. You focus on what matters, your offer, your creative, your experience, and you let Meta handle the distribution. That is the partnership. That's the business relationship that you're investing all of your hard-earned time and money into. And we proved this in Chapter 4, that your ad is your targeting. The story you tell, the offer you make, the tone that you use, that's what decides who sees it. So please stop excluding people who already love you. Instead, optimize for new customers and let your returning ones improve the signal. Happy buyers make your next buyers cheaper. And remember what we learned back in Chapter 5, that slow, consistent compounding moves win the game. That's how Meta learns to trust you. And we covered just how quickly that can be mountain moving. Remember the 500 to 130,000 in a year. It's totally doable. We also talked about how Meta is watching the whole story. Who clicks, who buys, who comes back, who keeps engaging. Every positive action teaches Meta what kind of person loves your brand. That is your closed loop. Clean signal in, cheaper traffic out, and more money in your bank account. In Chapter 7, we also talked about the Steakhouse. How you can sell a salad at a high margin once, or you can sell a steak at break even and build a customer for life. The first sale feeds you, the second and the third make you wealthy. And Meta sees that pattern. It knows when people buy again. It knows who engages, and it rewards you with more of those customers. Your allowable CAC rises, but your actual CAC falls, and now you're scaling with cash flow. That second scale, you can invest in reaching more people who are further away from the sale, because if you want to scale your business, you eventually have to focus on something other than just the low-hanging fruit. And remember the Mazda lesson from Chapter 3, reliable, predictable, and built to go the distance. And in Chapter 6, we talked about how you don't replace the winners, you add complements. Stability builds trust. Trust earns cheaper, higher quality traffic. And higher quality traffic builds you better customers, and better customers build you cash flow, and cash flow buys you growth. That is the flywheel of Andromeda, and you should be running it in your favor. There's no reason to fight the machine. It just doesn't make any sense. Now, there's the myth that Andromeda wants 50 ads per ad set. The truth is, dozens of ads are chaos. Simplicity wins. There's the myth that learning phase hurts performance, and in reality, it's feedback. Let it teach you what it needs more of. We have the myth that targeting will beat broad, when the truth is the creative does the targeting anyway. We have the myth that you should exclude customers to force prospecting, but returning buyers are your strongest signals. Raising your CPMs to avoid them doesn't make any sense. There's the myth that you should be replacing winners to stay fresh. The truth is you should complement them. Don't erase them. That doesn't make any sense. Again, like most of the advice you've been given doesn't logically play out when you say it in sentences. So with all that in mind, let's just review the operating checklist, okay? GPT is AOV minus CPR. 4PI shows you your weakest links. You should have one campaign per business objective, targeting broad. A few distinct ideas, not clutter. slow compounding budget increases. You want to keep your winners and add complements to them and make sure that you close the loop on all of your data and your signals and build for repeat buyers. That's the play, and this is how you become Meta's best business partner. You're not fighting the algorithm, you're training it. When your ads align with your offer and your experience is genuinely good, Meta learns to trust you. Trust buys higher quality traffic for a cheaper price. That brings you better customers. Better customers raise your revenue floor by scaling your cash flow. And eventually your entire ad budget can be funded purely by these returning customers, and that's why you can spend way more to acquire and still be profitable. You're not scaling spend anymore, you're just investing a portion of your profits in reaching more of the right people who matter, further from the sale, because your business can afford to meet them there. Andromeda didn't change fundamental business principles. It only more validated them. So you've seen the system, you've built the discipline, you've earned the confidence. Andromeda isn't a curveball, it's confirmation. Now it's time to go from understanding the system to owning it. And that's what we do inside Disruptor Academy. We take everything that you learned here, the structure, the creative, the scaling rhythm, and the confidence that you've built, and we install it inside of your business and your ad account and your operations and your team so results can compound. So your spend becomes more predictable and your growth becomes inevitable. If you're ready to scale with certainty and never have to guess what's working ever again, join us. Because this isn't about chasing trends anymore. It's about building the kind of system that makes every dollar, every ad, and every customer worth more. Welcome to Disruptor Academy, where confidence becomes scale, and you can see the success that you deserve. And remember the motto here: simple scales, complex fails. And I want you to see more success with less stress. So until next time, I'll see you on the internet. Bye.